Development. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Good
Thank
to
you.
see you. Let's go straight into it. I know you deal with organizations, NGOs that take care of persons with disabilities. Let's talk about it. How did you receive it when the president actually assented to this?
I think we're also glad because it's been probably 16 years in the making. However, I need to remind you that the Lagos State passed its own law
Long time ago.
some years ago. So even our state is kind of ahead of the federal government.
Well, talking about being ahead of the federal government, how well would you say that the government has fared? If we look at the idea of enforcement as it is, look at buildings. Not every building was designed to accommodate persons with disability. Let's look at people who are on wheelchairs or in wheelchairs, as it were. We had some of them here in this studio, and they complain that they go to banks, and people come out with the teller or something to attend to them outside.
To be honest, we are trying, but I wouldn't give us an A+. We haven't gotten there yet, but we are trying. Again, like you said, as in most of the rest of the country, enforcement. But everybody says, what is the state doing? What is the government doing? Who is the government? We all are. You are a bank. And you know there's a law that says there has to be a ramp. And you build the bank. And there's no ramp. Or there are ramps that do not meet standards. Because there's ramp and there's ramp. Some just say, oh, for the heck of it, let's just put a ramp. That even someone in a wheelchair, if that person attempts to go on that ramp, they will fall on their faces. I think the biggest problem is because we do not take these institutions as people to court. If I was in a wheelchair and I fell in your premises, I'll take you to court because you've broken the law. And then we can talk about it. But we all just say, you know something, don't worry, that bank, there's no reason why tellers should come out to work with somebody who has a disability. They need to write to the chief executive. They need to be calling press conferences and say, I bank here. I've been discriminated against. So I'm glad it's the law. But the point is, there's a 5-year grace period. I think it's too long, if you ask me. 5 years is too long. If you can afford to put up a public building that costs you ₦1 billion, you can afford to put in a ramp within 3 months. It's just a personal opinion.
All right, Lagos, you just said to us that Lagos has been, ahead when you talk about the disability law and all of that. What is the situation? Who has been enforcing what it's supposed to be?
Actually, without speaking for anyone, the enforcement really has to do with those who sign off on buildings. There's a law. So if I'm a builder and somebody is going to accept my building, who accepts it? Who goes through the process of putting in the building? The architect is also culpable because architectural drawings, the builders, they are culpable. So we need to go back and also talk to the associations, the builders, architects. It's a public building. There's a law. But you know something? I'm not sure if we can go from building to building. Have we done, as I said, can we get an A plus? Absolutely not. We still have a long way to go.
Why can't we get an A plus? If we say that we're a state that is number one,
We cannot
this
get
is a
an.
mega city. This
We
is
cannot-
where everything happens.
I know, but at least we're trying more than the other states. So you've got to give us something for that.
Now let's look at this. All public organizations are yet to reserve at least 5% of employment opportunities for these persons. What do you make of that? In Nigeria, as it were, when people come, they have some form of disability. Some of the persons we brought here said to us, they apply for jobs. Why do you think that people are so wary of employing persons who have some form of, inability to do something?
Without meaning to demean anyone, if you are an employer, you want to employ someone based on what they bring to the table. Disability alone does not entitle you to a job.
To get a job.
Are you well educated to the best of your ability? Can you do the job for which you are applying? And that's why we have, as a state, called attention to the fact that we need to begin to treat children who have disability or who are at risk as early as we notice, so that things are really not as bad as when they grow up. Because by the time you follow them from childhood, you are able to identify their key strengths and you build on those strengths. And it is those strengths that make them employable. Because if are you doing a disservice just employing somebody who has the disability for the sake of disability?
Just for the sake of pity.
Yes, again, their self-esteem becomes something else. So we all need to come together. We need to retrain and set them up for those who do not have what it takes. Am I saying there are those who are disabled, who are educated, who have master's degree, who are qualified? That becomes a big deal. If you are qualified, the way I see it, the way it happens in other climes, you are qualified, you are discriminated against based on the fact because you have a disability, then you go to court and the court determines.
In Nigeria?
Absolutely. All it takes is for one person to do it. To step forward and do it. Maybe that's what we need to wake up everybody's social consciousness.
All right, I've been talking with Mrs. Joyce Onafowokan. She's a special advisor. Well, we're talking about those living with a disability on the show tonight. When you get through, let's try as much as we can to stay
against you. We have the office of Lagos State's, there's the Lagos State Office of Disability Affairs. You go to them and explain what has happened to you, or you go straight to the Ministry of Justice in Lagos State. You have the power also to go to Central Bank. Central Bank has an oversight responsibility, I believe, over the banks. 2, with the issue of speech pathologists or therapists, yes, we do not have enough of them in Nigeria. We don't even have enough of them in Lagos. My office had a conversation some time ago with the Lagos State University, and we were thinking, or we just discussed briefly about how they can set up a department that would cater to the training of not just speech therapists, special education teachers, physiotherapists, occupational therapists. Those are lacking in the country. Again, you have to think about their salaries, because most of them, they just get their diplomas, they hop on the plane, and they go abroad where they make much more than they do here. So we have to think about how do we make them stay. Even doctors, we lose doctors at the rates that is unbelievable. Our doctors graduate, they sit for the foreign exams, before you blink, they're out of the country.
All right, hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Your radio set is